What if I told you that 7 car brands you've seen on European roads for decades are quietly disappearing, phasing out operations and preparing to exit the market entirely by 2026? Picture this: you're shopping for a used car in Europe, looking at inventory from brands that have been household names for generations, when you realize something shocking. Manufacturers are actively reducing dealership networks, ending local production, and making strategic decisions that signal their departure from one of the world's most important automotive markets. The automotive industry is undergoing seismic shifts that most consumers don't fully understand or appreciate. The transition to electric vehicles, changing regulations, market consolidation, and strategic pivots by major corporations are forcing brands to make difficult decisions about their European futures. Some manufacturers are choosing to exit entirely rather than invest billions upgrading to electric vehicle production and meeting evolving EU requirements. Others face bankruptcy and merger situations that eliminate their independent operations completely. Still others are being absorbed into larger conglomerates or shifted to completely different market strategies. The result is a wave of brand consolidation that will reshape the European automotive landscape dramatically over the next few years. Today, we're revealing 7 car brands that are disappearing from Europe by 2026, either through complete market exits, production cessation, or strategic repositioning that will end their presence on European roads. These aren't rumors or speculation. These are documented strategic decisions by manufacturers and industry consolidations already underway. Let's explore which brands are vanishing and what this means for European car buyers. Brand 7. Mitsubishi. Starting at number 7 is Mitsubishi, the Japanese manufacturer that has been steadily losing market share in Europe and has made strategic decisions indicating complete market exit by 2026. Mitsubishi has already stopped producing vehicles specifically for the European market and is systematically winding down dealership networks across the entire continent. The company decided to focus resources on other regions where they have stronger market positions and better profitability, essentially writing off Europe as a priority market requiring significant investment and resource allocation. Mitsubishi's European lineup has been declining steadily over recent years, with fewer new models reaching the market and existing vehicles receiving minimal updates to meet evolving regulations and customer expectations. The company announced it would cease diesel engine production entirely, which represented a significant portion of European sales and reflected deep customer preference in the region. Without competitive diesel options and facing strict EU emissions regulations that require expensive upgrades and technological investments, Mitsubishi determined that maintaining European operations was economically unviable and not worth the substantial investment required. Dealerships across Europe are being systematically notified that service and warranty support will continue only through 2025, with many locations scheduled to close entirely by 2026. The company is actively managing the transition, informing dealers of closure timelines and helping them transition to other brands or exit the automotive business entirely. This planned approach ensures dealerships have time to adjust and prepare for the brand's departure. The Outlander was essentially Mitsubishi's only remaining competitive model in Europe, but even this vehicle isn't being updated to meet evolving EU requirements and emission standards. Instead of investing billions in electrification and regulatory compliance, Mitsubishi decided to redirect resources toward markets like Southeast Asia and Japan, where their brands remain popular and profitable. This strategic retreat signals that European operations will effectively cease by 2026, with remaining vehicles sold through rapidly shrinking dealership networks. Current Mitsubishi owners in Europe face increasingly uncertain futures regarding service, parts availability, and warranty claims, as the company methodically winds down operations. Resale values have already begun declining significantly as buyers recognize the brand's uncertain future in the region and decreased service availability. Dealerships are offering significant discounts and aggressive incentives to clear remaining inventory before dealerships close and operations cease entirely. Brand 6. Dacia. At number 6 is Dacia, the Romanian budget brand owned by Renault that is being repositioned entirely away from European focus and brand identity. While not completely disappearing from existence, Dacia is dramatically reducing its European presence and rebranding as Spring, essentially phasing out the Dacia nameplate in Europe by 2026. This strategic repositioning effectively eliminates the Dacia brand as consumers have known it for decades. Renault has decided that the Dacia brand's reputation as a budget manufacturer doesn't align with their future strategy focused on electric vehicles, premium positioning, and technological innovation across their global portfolio. Rather than continue the Dacia brand in Europe with traditional powertrains and budget positioning, Renault is transitioning production and sales strategy entirely away from the current model. The brand is being shifted toward emerging markets and budget-focused regions outside Europe, while European markets receive different branding and vehicles under Renault labels instead. This represents a complete strategic repositioning of the brand away from its traditional European heartland. Current Dacia dealership networks are being consolidated with Renault locations, with many standalone Dacia dealerships closing by 2026 as the consolidation completes. Service centers are actively reducing Dacia-specific operations and training, preparing for the transition. New model development for the European Dacia market has essentially ceased, with future products directed elsewhere entirely. Existing Dacia vehicles will receive minimal updates and increasingly limited support as the company manages the brand exit systematically and deliberately. Dacia buyers face significant challenges as service networks contract rapidly and spare parts availability becomes problematic. Resale values are declining measurably as buyers recognize the brand's diminishing future in Europe and reduce service accessibility. The company's decision to eliminate the brand by 2026 reflects their assessment that the budget market is no longer viable or aligned with their corporate strategy for the future. Brand 5, SSNGYong. Coming in at number 5 is SSNGYong, the Korean manufacturer that has been struggling with bankruptcy, financial distress, and catastrophic market share collapse across Europe. The brand has already ceased production and dealership operations in most European countries, with remaining outlets scheduled to close by 2026. SSNGYong's history of quality concerns and reliability issues damaged the brand's reputation extensively, making recovery nearly impossible in competitive European markets. SSNGYong filed for bankruptcy protection in South Korea and has since been acquired in pieces by other manufacturers, fundamentally changing the company's operational structure and strategic direction. The European operations never recovered from brand perception problems that accumulated over years and were ultimately discontinued as the company redirected resources toward core markets in Asia. Current dealership locations are being converted to other brands or closed entirely, with no realistic plans for any SSNGYong presence in Europe by 2026. Existing owners face mounting service challenges as specialized dealerships close at accelerating rates and parts availability becomes critically difficult to impossible. Finding mechanics familiar with SSNGYong vehicles and trained on their specific systems is increasingly challenging as network shrinkage accelerates dramatically. Warranty support is becoming problematic as the company winds down operations and reduces customer service resources systematically across all markets. SSNGYong's exit from Europe is essentially complete already, with 2026 marking the final closure of remaining dealership infrastructure and service centers. The brand's decade-long struggle in the market has left a minimal legacy, with few industry observers mourning the departure given the brand's quality reputation problems and service challenges. Brand 4, Subaru. At number 4 is Subaru, which despite being a respected and loyal brand, has made strategic decisions clearly indicating European market exit by 2026. Subaru has announced it will cease vehicle production for the European market and close manufacturing facilities that supplied European dealers. The company is shifting production entirely toward Japan, the United States, and emerging markets where demand remains considerably stronger and more profitable. Subaru's European market share has been declining steadily as customers choose German and Japanese competitors with stronger dealership networks and more aggressive marketing strategies. Rather than invest the billions required for European electrification, regulatory compliance, and market expansion, Subaru determined that maintaining marginal market presence wasn't economically justified. The company has already notified European dealers officially that future vehicle allocation will be minimal, and dealership numbers will contract significantly. European dealership networks are receiving notifications that 2026 will mark the end of official Subaru dealer status across much of the continent. While some service centers may remain under different branding arrangements, the traditional Subaru brand presence is effectively ending. Existing owners face uncertain futures regarding warranty support, parts availability, and access to specialized service trained on Subaru systems and vehicles. Subaru's European exit reflects the company's strategic focus on more profitable markets and their decision to consolidate operations rather than maintain multiple global market operations simultaneously. The brand's future in Europe is limited to residual sales and service of existing vehicles through 2026 and beyond. This strategic decision reflects broader trends in the industry toward market consolidation. Brand 3, Suzuki. Taking the third spot is Suzuki, the Japanese manufacturer that has essentially ceased European market operations already, with remaining dealerships scheduled to close by 2026. Suzuki quietly withdrew from most European markets beginning in 2021 and has been systematically closing dealerships and reducing presence steadily through 2024 and 2025. By 2026, Suzuki brand presence in Europe will be minimal or effectively non-existent across most markets. Suzuki's decision to exit Europe was strategic and calculated, recognizing that competing against established German, Japanese, and Korean brands in a saturated and competitive market simply wasn't viable. The company lacked the volume and profitability to justify continued investment in European regulatory compliance and costly electrification required by EU regulations. Dealership numbers have already declined dramatically, with most locations closed or converted to other brands entirely. Current Suzuki owners in Europe already face significant service challenges, as network shrinkage has progressed considerably and accelerated. Parts availability is becoming increasingly problematic, and warranty support is becoming increasingly limited as dealerships close. Service facilities are declining at accelerating rates, making maintenance difficult or impossible in many regions. By 2026, finding official Suzuki service facilities will be nearly impossible across most of Europe. Suzuki's European exit is essentially complete already, with 2026 marking the final transition away from the market entirely. The brand's long history of producing affordable, reliable vehicles hasn't been enough to overcome market consolidation pressures, and the company's strategic focus on other regions more profitable and strategically important. Brand 2, MG Morris Garages. Taking the silver medal at number 2 is MG Morris Garages, the British-owned but Chinese-operated brand that is facing significant regulatory and market challenges that could force European exit by 2026. MG has been rapidly expanding its European presence through 2024 and 2025 with cheap electric vehicles targeting budget-conscious buyers, but faces potential market restrictions and regulatory challenges. Geopolitical tensions and evolving trade regulations may limit Chinese vehicle imports substantially, fundamentally changing MG's European strategy and operations. MG's growth has been built strategically on offering affordable electric vehicles targeting budget-conscious buyers seeking low-cost alternatives. The company faces increasing scrutiny regarding vehicle quality standards, data security concerns, and geopolitical concerns about Chinese ownership and control. European regulators are actively considering restrictions on Chinese-owned automotive brands, which could force MG to restructure completely or exit entirely. If trade restrictions materialize or geopolitical tensions escalate further, MG could be forced to cease European operations or restructure entirely by 2026. The brand's rapid recent expansion makes equally rapid exit entirely possible if regulatory or political circumstances force the decision. Current dealers and buyers face increasing uncertainty regarding long-term brand viability and sustainability in the European market. MG's European future depends heavily on geopolitical and regulatory developments largely beyond the company's direct control. If restrictions on Chinese vehicle ownership or imports materialize as anticipated, the brand could disappear from Europe by 2026 despite current aggressive expansion and market penetration strategies. The uncertainty creates challenges for buyers considering MG vehicles. Brand 1, Lada. And finally, taking the number 1 spot as the brand most likely disappearing from Europe by 2026 is Lada, the Russian manufacturer that has already ceased European operations due to geopolitical circumstances completely. Following Western sanctions against Russia in 2022 and their continuation, Lada officially suspended European vehicle exports and dealership operations. By 2026, the brand will have been completely absent from European markets for years, with no realistic indication of potential return. Lada's European presence was primarily concentrated in Eastern Europe and Russia-aligned nations, but even those markets have become inaccessible due to sanctions and supply chain disruptions. European dealerships have closed or been converted to other brands, and warranty support has essentially ended entirely. The company ceased development of European-specific vehicles and is unlikely to resume such efforts given ongoing geopolitical tensions and continuing sanctions. Current Lada owners in Europe face nearly impossible challenges regarding parts availability, warranty claims, and service options. Finding specialized mechanics trained on Lada systems is extraordinarily difficult as the dealership network has essentially vanished completely from the continent. Many vehicles are being abandoned rather than serviced as owners recognize the brand's operational impossibility and lack of support infrastructure. Lada's European disappearance is complete and essentially permanent, with 2026 marking several years of total market absence. The brand's return to Europe remains highly uncertain given geopolitical circumstances that show no realistic signs of resolution or improvement. Owners are essentially on their own regarding vehicle maintenance and support. What this means for European car buyers. The disappearance of these 7 brands represents a seismic shift in the European automotive landscape that will have profound implications for buyers. Market consolidation means fewer brand choices, reduced competition, and potentially higher prices as competition decreases. Buyers seeking budget-friendly options will find fewer alternatives as brands like Dacia and Suzuki exit the market entirely. For owners of vehicles from these brands, the situation becomes increasingly challenging regarding resale value, service accessibility, and parts availability. Vehicles from disappearing brands will depreciate more rapidly as buyers recognize the risks of ownership without brand support. Service networks will continue shrinking, making maintenance increasingly difficult and expensive. Insurance and warranty support will become increasingly problematic as fewer insurers understand these vehicles and fewer dealerships can service them properly. Resale options will diminish as fewer buyers want vehicles from brands without European support infrastructure. Owners should consider their options regarding replacement vehicles or future planning. Implications for the automotive industry. This wave of European brand exits reflects broader industry trends including consolidation, the expensive transition to electrification, and changing consumer preferences. Manufacturers must choose between investing billions in European regulatory compliance or abandoning the market entirely. Many are choosing exit. The survivors will be brands with sufficient resources to invest in electrification, strong brand loyalty, and profitable operations elsewhere, subsidizing European losses. German luxury brands, major Japanese manufacturers, and Korean brands with strong market positions appear positioned to survive and thrive. So there you have it, 7 car brands that are disappearing from Europe by 2026, either through complete market exits, strategic repositioning, regulatory challenges, or geopolitical circumstances beyond their control. From Mitsubishi's strategic withdrawal at number 7 to Lada's geopolitical forced exit at the top spot, these brands represent major shifts in the European automotive landscape. These brand exits reflect broader industry consolidation, the challenges of electrification transition, changing regulatory environments, and geopolitical complications affecting the automotive sector globally. Manufacturers are making difficult strategic decisions about which markets deserve substantial investment and which should be abandoned. For European consumers, these departures mean reduced brand choices, declining resale values for affected vehicles, and increasing challenges regarding service and parts availability. The automotive market is consolidating dramatically, with fewer brands competing for market share and fewer surviving the transition to electric vehicles and evolving regulations. If you own vehicles from any of these disappearing brands, consider your options regarding future service, parts availability, and resale value immediately. The next few years will see significant market restructuring as these brands complete their European exits. The automotive industry will look dramatically different by 2027 compared to today. Start planning now if you own one of these vehicles. Consider replacement options, establish relationships with independent mechanics, and stock up on parts while availability remains possible. Your future transportation needs depend on making informed decisions based on current market realities.